Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Well, you got your bucket list, your grocery list, your list of things to do. You got a list of all your wishes. That's a wish list, dude. You got your Amazon and Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy too. But I know a list that don't exist, and buddy, so do you. It's the Epstein list, it's a mystery list with a twist. It's a myth of a list that we all just missed. Be an optimist, not a pessimist. If you wish to persist, it's probably best you forget that list. Now what were we talking about? I don't remember, but I can sleep a lot better at night. Yeah, life can just go along, knowing there's 10,000 hours of sunshine and flowers and nobody doing a damn thing wrong. Hear no, see no, damn Bongino, Cash Patel. Well, I wouldn't want to be a sweating man with bulging eyes. Now tell me them fellas ain't compromised. Any implicated dude will tell you anybody on the big list knows just how far the folks in charge will go to keep the status quo. So when the war bell rings, the song that they'll sing is a song that we well know. I-oh, so it's off to war I go. Well, they said they's gonna fix it, but now they're all complicit. They-oh, so it's off to war we go. Send the poor off to war, what else are we for? They-oh.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the network refused to use, no doubt, kicks off now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for July the 14th in the year of our Lord, 2025. This is indeed our one of two, and the goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, to do so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, indeed, the checks and balances brilliantly put in place by our founding fathers. What are the peaceful, restorative solutions we still have at our fingertips? And as you know, we reject revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution. Then we're in, because we follow the Prince of Peace. Without further ado, Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com. Welcome back, sir.
Well, thank you, Sam. We can't even check the list to see who's naughty and nice,
no,
can
sir,
we?
It doesn't exist. No.
No.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold the presses. Donald Trump had a kind of a what do you call it? A remembrance. Now President Trump claims the list does exist, but the Democrats have doctored it. So the Epstein list is real, but the Democrats have doctored it, and so therefore we don't know how real it is because they've tampered with the evidence. So my response is, if that's really true, Dr. Bradley, then what Trump needs to do is just start arresting people left and right. Whoever had a hand in doctoring this list or playing games with the list, arrest those clowns immediately. So this is getting worse, not better. The more Donald talks, the more Pam Bondi speaks, the more they try to cover up, the more they try to manipulate this, the worse it gets for them. Saying the list didn't exist and now saying it's real, but the Democrats have tampered with it, only makes matters worse. We're going to lose, says Steve Bannon. Warns withholding Epstein files would do to the GOP. He said it's not about just a pedophile ring and all that. It's about who governs us. It's not going away. For this to go away, you're going to lose 10% of the MAGA movement. Daily Caller, Jason Cohen writes the piece. So that's the first thing. Steve Bannon speaking out boldly saying, hey, this is going to be serious. I mean, he's saying we're probably going to lose like 40 next election midterms in the House of Representatives. I mean, he's right. It could be massive. Nobody will trust government anymore. The problem is the issue is honesty, and the core is trust. Now Kash Patel may resign, although Kash says not true. Following the Justice Department to handle the FBI investigation. But they say Kash Patel is reportedly aligning with Dan Bongino. FBI Director Dan Bongino threatened to quit if Attorney General Pam Bondi remains in office. So Bondi's taking the hit for this, not Trump. And I have a problem with that. I don't know if it's Bondi or Trump or where in the line of command this is, but it's a disaster. Trump speaks with FBI Director Dan Bongino amongst the controversy. Yournews.com with that piece. And basically that is Trump speaking, outside of Air Force One or whatever. I hate it when these news people always try to get these sound bites when the president's boarding a plane. Why do you clowns do that? I know you think it looks really presidential. He's standing before the plane and it's a beautiful outdoor shot, but it sounds like garbage. He's yelling above a plane engine. I think that Dan, but I talked to Dan. Dan's a good guy. I've been on his show and he's a great guy, and I think Dan's going to be fine. That's what Trump says. But why don't you just interview him where it's good and quiet and there's a good interview where you can get, why do you do it in front of a, it's clown old school stuff. That's why. Because they just don't get it. I'm not so interested in this, hey, plane, we see Air Force One every time and the president's running to the plane and the gaggle of weird reporters start vying for position and they're arguing with each other and you hear the plane and the reporter say something and you don't even know what the reporter says. But it's clown show stuff. It's old school. It needs to go away. Just talk to the president in a sit down or, when he's at a podium or something where you can clearly hear everything, okay? Mic up the reporter so you can actually hear the reporter too. Come on, have some intelligence in modern times. You don't need to chase him to the plane and be goofy as you all board Air Force One and then talk in private and everything else. It's just bogus. All right, General Mike Flynn speaking out as well about this says, hey, Trump, you need to confront the Epstein cover-up. So now Trump is covering up. And Pam Bondi, and whether Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are in on it, time will tell, to confront the Epstein cover-up, warns nation cannot heal until elites are held accountable for child abuse. The Gateway pundit with that. I agree 100% with Flynn. Hey, man, this is about pedophile rings. This is about little girls. This is about women. Where's the Me Too movement when you need them, huh? So now you've got Kash Patel speaking out, Dan Bongino speaking out, Michael Flynn speaking out. Let's see, who else? You got Glenn Beck speaking out. Now, Glenn Beck is FOIA requesting information between what Dan Bongino sent to Pam Bondi. You got General Flynn speaking out. You got Charlie Kirk speaking out. You got me speaking out. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And now it gets even worse. You say, why? Well, listen to this. Allegedly, Epstein footage likely modified metadata analysis. This is MSN.com with the piece. They say an analysis which was billed as raw surveillance footage from the prison where Jeffrey Epstein died. Now they say it was modified. They say there's no sign that it was intentionally manipulated, but it isn't the raw footage that we are told it was modified. During this review, they say the FBI enhanced the relevant footage by increasing its contrast, balancing the color, and improving its sharpness for greater clarity. I don't know that I buy all that. Is that all they did? And why do they have to do that, Well, so you can see better. But Wired magazine found that when it reviewed the video files, that instead of demolishing
If Sam's gone for a minute, perhaps I could step in here with what might be appropriate. Do you think, Lizzie? Okay, we seem to have lost Sam's feed, at least in my ears, but I think I've got something to say that might be advice to the Trump administration. Here's a letter written in 1785. I just want to read a little excerpt from it. I think it's appropriate that it be applied in our modern era. So, here's what Thomas Jefferson wrote to his nephew, Peter Carr, from France when he was the ambassador there. And I think it applies. He says, "Give up money, give up fame, give up science, give the earth itself and all it contains, rather than do an immoral act. And never suppose that in any possible situation or under any circumstance, it is best for you to do a dishonorable thing, however slightly it may appear to you. Whenever you are to do a thing, though it can never be known but to yourself, ask yourself, how you would act were all the world looking at you, and act accordingly. Encourage all your virtuous dispositions, and exercise them whenever an opportunity arises, being assured that they will gain strength by exercise, as a limb of the body does, and that exercise will make them habitual. From the practice of the purest virtue, you may be assured that you will derive the most sublime comforts in every moment of life and in the moment of death. If you ever find yourself environed with difficulties and perplexing circumstances, out of which you are at a loss how to extricate yourself, do what is right. Perhaps we could just skip the little break there, Liz, while this little Jefferson wisdom is passed on. And be assured that it will extricate you from the best out of the worst situation.
As a parent, is receiving a faith-based, character-focused education for your children difficult to find? Do you believe that godly principles should be a central component in your child's education? Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character. For over 40 years, American Heritage School has been educating both hearts and minds, bringing out academic excellence. This is the school where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. With American Heritage School's advanced distance education program, distance is no longer an issue. With an accredited LDS-oriented curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade, your children can attend from anywhere in the world. American Heritage School will prepare your child for more than a job. It will prepare them for life. To learn more, visit american-heritage.org. That's american-heritage.org.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
All right. It's been a technological wizard day for everybody, it seems like. Before the break, I was communicating a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to his nephew, Peter Carr, in 1785 that I think applies very much to the Trump administration today. Well, all of us, in fact. So kind of picking up where I left off. If ever you find yourself environed with difficulties and perplexing circumstances out of which you're at a loss how to extricate yourself, do what is right, and be assured that it will extricate you the best out of the worst situations. Though you cannot see, when you take one step, what will be the next, yet follow truth, justice, and plain dealing, and never fear their leading you out of the labyrinth in the easiest possible manner. The knot which you thought a Gordian one will untie itself before you. Nothing is so mistaken as the supposition that a person can extricate himself from a difficulty by intrigue, by chicanery, by dissimulation, by trimming, by an untruth, by an injustice. This increases the difficulties tenfold. And those who pursue these methods get themselves so involved at length that they can turn no way but their infamy becomes more exposed. It is of great importance to set the resolution not to be shaken, never to tell an untruth. There is no vice so mean, so pitiful, so contemptible, And he who permits himself to tell a lie once finds it much easier to do it a second and a third time, till at length it becomes habitual. He tells lies without attending to it, and truths without the world believing him. This falsehood of the tongue leads to that of the heart, and in time depraves all its good dispositions. Thus saith, if I might, Thomas Jefferson to his nephew Peter Carr in 1785, and thus saith I to the Trump administration at all levels, that this dissimulation, if you will, this Gordian knot that they have tied for themselves, this chicanery, this trimming, this untruth, this injustice, will ultimately bite them, and it will hurt pretty bad. And many of the people that thought they were getting a upfront, transparent, honest, and truthful administration will wander from the cause. Sam, what do you think?
I think Jefferson is absolutely spot on, and I think the point that you're making transcends this specific issue, meaning that it relates to this issue without a question. It's 100% relatable. But the point that you're making, and I think the point that's absolutely vital and spot on, is this simple idea that, hey, it doesn't matter what the issue is. The issue is honesty. It doesn't matter what games we want to play, what lies we want to tell. It will do no good, meaning that it won't help us in the long run. And all Trump is doing right here is eroding trust. Okay, we need accountability, and we need accountability fast. And until we get it, it's not going to get any better. Until we can trust the administration, and the problem is we thought we could, right? And now we're finding out we can't. We can't trust Trump. We can't trust Pam Bondi. And that's the problem, is how well is this going to go when we can't trust these clowns? It's never going to go well, Doctor. And so the pros from Jefferson really, in my mind, highlight the importance of being able to trust. And now that they've gone down this road, even if they decide there are Epstein files and they release them, or they start another investigation, or whatever they do, I won't trust the results. The chance of me trusting the results of this or anything else the administration puts out is almost zero. It's going to be almost impossible to regain trust. It's been, 7 months now, almost? Well, I guess, what's the date today? A week, it'll be 7 months since Donald Trump took over. Over 7 months for the Republican Congress. And what have they accomplished? They've spent us into oblivion, and they haven't released any of the things they've promised. And they're now caught in a big old manipulated scandal where you don't know who's telling the truth and who's not. I mean, isn't that where we are, Doctor?
Well, absolutely. In fact, I think I came to this point a long time. Well, maybe not so. I know you fairly well, but I was going to say I came to this point a long time before you did, and I never trusted anything.
Well, I was at this point before the start. Remember, I was the one saying he's going to be the war president and he's going to melt down. So I've been at this for a long time, but I wanted to have some hope. I wanted a grain of, hey, let's give him a chance. And so I think even though we might say we've seen this too many times, we've watched this play before, sometimes you've got to say, hey, maybe when the Republicans have control of the House, the Senate, the White House, maybe the courts, maybe there'll be a little difference this time. And even though you are jaded and even though you think it's probably going to be a failure, there's a grain of me that always has hope for better. And so, hope is eternal, hope is optimism or whatever. It turns into hopium if you're not careful, but at the same time, I don't think we can be so negative we never have any hope. That doesn't ring true to me either. So I get your point, and I don't disagree, but the question is, when do you say the hope is hopium versus when was it genuine hope, right?
Right, and I got to tell you, Sam, I mean, I never cease to be disappointed, even though I know that's the path it's going. I mean, I talked to so many people that I've historically considered they had a measure of intelligence and logic and understanding and so on. But I am so tired of suffering fools, and I know we're all fools before God. So don't get me wrong. I think we all have our blind spots. And I don't know if you know much about it's probably not worth bringing up, but the Johari window is our perspective is very narrow, and we cannot know everything that's beyond. We cannot know what's beyond our
yes, ma'am.
Our view. Sam, you're on the air right now, by the way. Anyway,
okay, my son called.
I guess I find myself.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Disappointed, but expecting that way. And I know my only hope is in our Savior, Jesus Christ. And to trust in the arm of flesh, we need to absolutely hold our guard up. I think, I know Reagan used to say, trust but verify. I always say distrust until verified. And so I guess we need to just recognize the disappointment seems to be universal on this kind of thing. I am just blown away at how Trump's administration has blown this one apart. This was a no-brainer. This was a softball pitch. This could have been a home run, and it fell apart. And why it did is still a bit of an enigma, and we've talked about this before. Did he have to say he wouldn't do it to get votes on his big, beautiful bill? Or somehow was it there's too much guilt that would be spread so far and wide that the I don't know, the high ones that would fall?
Or was it the idea that if we really release this and we start naming names, that then would have to actually prosecute people, and we don't want our friends to go to jail? You remember Donald Trump's had a lot of friends. Bill Clinton was his good friend. All these people were really his friends for decades until he became president, and then they all turned on him, supposedly. But you wonder how much of that's political theater versus... So, for example, on the campaign trail, at least first go-around in 2016, he was ready to lock up Hillary. And Hillary needs to be locked up for her criminal activity. But then when he got in office, he's like, oh, leave Hillary alone. Come on. No big deal, no harm, no foul. Okay, well, the same thing with George Soros, He got confronted about George Soros, and Donald Trump's like, leave George alone, come on. George has nothing to do with this. And now he's like, hey, the Epstein files, no big deal. How dare you bring that up when there's a flood in Texas? How dare you? And so the question becomes, and this is a real issue, we've asked this since 2015 when Donald Trump rolled down the elevator or whatever and decided that he was going to run for office. We kind of said, hey, Trump's saying the right things. Trump's, but where do his loyalties really lie? And that's what I'm struggling with to this very day. It's like when I look at him on one hand, I think he's done a lot of good. On the other hand, I think most of the good he's done is completely reversible. The first time he got in, 99% of what he did good got reversed. And the other part that he got good, that we think was good, was kind of a lie. For example, he said he got a whole lot more wall built than he did. Well, the problem is I don't even want a wall built. If you can lock people out, you can lock people in, too. Liberty doesn't build necessarily walls. I get that you want to make America secure and all that, but at what point? And so, hey, he hints that we're going to get rid of the IRS. He's no closer to getting rid of the IRS than anything else. He hints that gold and silver is key. But they're building a big old Federal Reserve facility right now, and now there's a big fight between Donald Trump and the Federal Reserve chair. Because he had cost overruns on rebuilding the Federal Reserve compound or whatever. So you're going to battle over you spent the money wrongly building the Federal Reserve compound? Why don't you just fire the Federal Reserve chairman and get rid of the Federal Reserve entirely? And so all the things that I really want and hope for sound so good on paper. Even so, we did great. We got rid of Planned Parenthood funding for a year. Well, who's even going to vote on it next time? Are we going to keep extending that every single time and have a battle about that every single time? So I appreciate that we're trying to get rid of these things, but I don't think they're real. And so the question becomes really, where is Trump's loyalties? Where do they really lie? That's kind of the bottom line. All right, we'll take a quick pause. Dr. Scott Bradley and yours truly, hang tight. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live. This is big stuff, folks, and it ain't going away.
proclaiming liberty across the land. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. A raging fire claimed 9 lives at a Massachusetts assisted living facility last night. Some 4 dozen firefighters responded to the blaze in Fall River, rescuing many other residents. The cause of the fire is under investigation. President Trump says the U.S. will send Patriot missile defense systems to Ukraine as Russia carries out nightly drone and missile strikes.
We basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military, and they're going to pay us 100% for them.
Administration officials are holding talks this week with NATO leaders about the ongoing crisis. Health officials in Arizona say a person is dead from the plague.
The unidentified patient came into the emergency room at the hospital in Flagstaff and died the same day. Testing results confirmed Friday that the person died from pneumonic plague caused by the same bacterium as the bubonic plague that devastated Europe in the 14th century. Pneumonic plague affects the lungs, whereas bubonic plague affects the lymph nodes. It was the first death from pneumonic plague recorded in that region since 2007. Tasha Stevens reporting.
Police are investigating yesterday's deadly shootings at a Lexington, Kentucky church. 2 women were killed by a gunman after a state trooper was shot and wounded by the suspect. The suspect later killed by police. Emergency crews in central Texas temporarily suspended their search for flood victims yesterday because of more rain. The death toll from the July 4th flash flooding stands at 132, scores more people still missing. Israel has struck military tanks in southern Syria where government forces and Bedouin tribes are clashing with Druze militias. Israel has previously intervened in defense of the Druze religious minority. Townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. You work hard, you build wisely, your home has become one of your greatest assets. If you're staying put this summer, this might be the perfect time to put that equity to work. Whether it's funding a second home, helping your kids get their start, or simply creating more margin in your financial life, Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans are the only ones I trust to guide you through it. They've done loans for my family. They tailor every loan to fit your goals. Fellowship is a direct lender and operates with your best interest in mind. If you're looking to access your equity through a refi or exploring a HELOC for some cash this summer for a second property or maybe tackle those updates you've been putting off, start with people you trust, people I trust. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453, Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com. So I don't even know where to go with this, Doctor. It's so egregious what Trump has done here that I think it's going to divide MAGA. Steve Bannon saying MAGA is going to lose 10%. Maybe in regards to the House of Representatives and the next elections, that might be a reality check. But I'm convinced that it's going to be worse than that. Who can trust government? Now, if you can't trust Trump, who can you trust is really the bottom line.
Sam, I know I'm going to turn in, this is a bucket of mud I'm dumping on things too. But I think that, we say, could he have got votes on his big, beautiful bill because some would have been on the list? And so we're talking congressional, and what about some of the other senior officials from other administrations and blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to say, what about international intrigue that might be involved? Other state actors, for example. What if Bibi Netanyahu was on the list? What if there's, this?
Yeah, and then he says, "Hey, Trump, I'm pushing for you to get a Nobel Peace Prize," and hey, then how does that all work? Are we going to suspend that and say we won't go after you as long as you push for my Nobel Peace Prize? How come Trump was ready to pull out of not be involved in the war for the Ukraine, but now he's changed his mind on that too, and he's going to send missiles there? Is that translation, any of that?
This is all. What it does, it opens up questions about the whole spectrum of what's going on, and you always have to ask the Latin question: cui bono? Who benefits? And there's so many things that are being benefited right now that just were flip-floppers. You talk about Mitt Romney and his flip-flopper attitude. Well, Donald Trump, it's getting hard you got to stroke tally and keep careful watch to see which side of the margin it's on already now, This is happening with increasing frequency and with monumental changes. You talk about you're sending Patriot batteries now to Ukraine. It's like, what? Wait. And by the way, Patriot batteries are not going to do a hill of beans of difference on many of the types of drones that are available nowadays. These kind of low-tech approaches to things, we can send all the sophistication in the world to someplace, and then beyond that, there's the sophistication that would be necessary to respond to some of the hypersonic missiles that are ultimately going to be brought to the battlefield, and in some instances have been already. And by the way, I think some of those things were exercised by Iran with devastating effectiveness on Israel, and I think that's why Israel came on bended knee to the United States and said, please, please, please extricate us from this asinine program we took by taking airstrikes to Iran. Iran has more sophistication than the news media are willing to supply to you. Everything right now is there's a lot of moving parts, let's just put it that way. And I don't know where you can start and stop saying this affected it and this didn't. There's just too many questions. So, it's really weird. The Republicans may lose in their midterm elections based upon what Bannon's saying, but what if we have World War III over it? That's a pretty big issue, isn't it? Come on, people. This idea of straightforward, seeking truth, and coming out with it, I don't think there's a better approach. I really don't.
So where do we go with this, Dr. Bradley? What do you think needs to be done at this point? I've completely lost confidence in the administration.
Well, I think that clarity needs to be expressed here, and I'll tell you how that could be done. If, in fact, and now here's the administration, we just couldn't show it because the Democrats, they tampered with the evidence. Well, okay, let's go down that path for a second. If in fact you have evidence of that, let us expose it. Let's bring it forth. Let the people come to understand. And again, I fully support the grand jury stuff and the Fifth Amendment and all this, and not trying everything in the New York Times and all this kind of stuff. And by the way, why bring it up? The New York Times had some interesting information about the autopen debacle, but let's not go there for a minute.
That's what I have next, by the way.
Oh, do you? Okay. You can't say we're going to try everything in New York Times, but we need to see some, we've got evidence of tampering. Let's pursue that. Let's take some action. Let's bring some indictments. Let's bring some charges. We need to see.
The problem is that they're not going to do any of that. Okay, they've known since November 5th that Trump was going to be in office, so they had literally 2 months to prepare. He's been around forever, and nothing's happening, Doctor.
Well, that's what's quite disappointing. Well, you say nothing's happening. Yeah, the border has been improved, and by the way, some of the big, beautiful bill stuff is just a facade, as you point out. The Planned Parenthood has been, oh, no, we can't fund them for a year. Oh, my goodness. I mean, this stuff, and then you've got some making permanent some of the Doge findings. There's going to be how do I put it nicely? There's going to be a big battle over that. They are going to have some major foot dragging on those kinds of things, and that's still got to cross the halls of Congress, I'm with you, Sam. I'd like to see some real, tangible, permanent corrections. Because as you so rightly point out, so many of the things that have been done are completely unhookable. You can unhook this anytime someone else comes into office. Let's make these permanent, done changes. But you're right. Almost nothing like that has happened. It's a tragic travesty, and so many people are smoking hopium.
And it's not going to happen, and Congress is so slow. They take so many breaks, they take so many recesses or whatever, to where they're not going to get anything done on this. We're supposed to have a big $9 billion supposed, Doge savings to be voted on in a couple of days. We don't even know if it's going to pass. That's after they already spent time focusing on two big bogus spending bills. And now we can't even get them to focus on this. They're on recess. They're gone. You can't communicate with them. You can't talk to them. They don't care. Even if you were to say we've proven that the autopen's a scandal. Well, now you can't even prove who's responsible. I mean, the lady that admits she controlled the autopen says, oh, yeah, a committee would just email me or send me a confirmation that this or that should be signed, and I signed it. So she doesn't even have real, true confirmation that Biden gave her the permission or that Biden approved this or that. Now it turns out more evidence comes out, and Biden didn't really approve all the people. He just somehow did this general, here's the guidelines of who I want to be whatever and this and that, and all upon guidelines, then somebody else made all the decisions. This is criminal.
Yeah, the guidelines were not personal. The guidelines were general statements of intent. And that's what's really interesting. So somebody said, hey, I interpret that guideline to apply to this guy. Let's do this guy. Sign, sign, sign. It's a really interesting phenomena that's happening. And the chain of authority or control on all of these things has just flat out unraveled. By the way, you're right. Congress goes on big breaks. They take the summer off, basically. They go home and campaign, and they, sit around the barbecue or whatever they do when they get home. They go back to their little town hall meetings. But the fact of the matter is, here's another issue, Sam. Do you know September's just around the corner? Have you thought about that, my man?
Yes, sir.
By the end of
September. It's a month and a half away or whatever.
By the end of September, we've got to have a whole new budget, folks. So this Doge stuff that they're going to fight about,
they'll just basically kick that can down the road and delay that, and then they'll have a deadline. It'll be right before everybody's taking a break for Thanksgiving or Christmas or who knows how they'll manipulate that. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, our back's against the wall. We have no choice but to kick the can down the road. I mean, after all, you wouldn't want government to shut down now, would you? The Democrats are the horrible ones. They won't pass this. They're against it. Now we're going to basically twist arms. And hey, do you think that, Mike What's his face?
Johnson.
What's that guy's name?
Johnson.
Mike Johnson. Do you think he's a good guy? I'm getting all these polls right now going, do you support Mike Johnson? No, he's a clown. He's a sham. He's a dishonest thug, and he needs to be removed immediately. Why we let this idiot go forward for so long, I don't even know. But what Donald says is, oh, this guy's a great guy. We're getting MAGA done. And then Donald Trump's like, how dare anybody step aside and don't do what we want? I mean, who would dare take on MAGA and this and that? And look, I don't care about MAGA. I don't care about Trump. I don't care about Johnson. I don't care about any of these individuals in terms of their personal opinions or views or where they stand. I stand on principle. And when you spend us into oblivion, I'm against you. When you take responsibility and manage the purse strings as I would my own finances, which is if I don't have the money, I'm not going to spend it, which is if I need to borrow, I'm going to be very careful about that borrowing. And I'm going to do my best to borrow as little as possible and be as frugal as I can and pay it back as quick as I can. That's where I stand. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I want to be like, right? Okay, but they're not doing any of those things. And then if I ever speak out against it, then I'm somehow an enemy of MAGA. I'm not an enemy of anything or anybody. I just want to stand with the truth, and I want America to be great. And that means America to be moral and accountable and transparent. When are they going to understand? But none of them do, and I don't see any idea that they're going to understand any time soon.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
So Donald Trump says, yeah, we're going to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine. He says, yeah, they desperately need them. Yeah, Donald Trump then claims the U.S. wouldn't pay for them. And my response is, that kind of like how the Mexicans are going to pay for the big wall? We're not going to pay for this. Yeah, Trump has declared that NATO will pay for the Patriot missiles that the U.S. is sending to the Ukraine. Well, here's my deal. Why would we send it through NATO? Right? Why on earth would we let NATO pay for them in the first place? NATO doesn't have any money, do they? Oh, well, NATO gets the money from us. Oh, I mean, from all these other countries, which we pay 90% of. Then they say shipments were temporarily halted on July 2nd due to the U.S. review of the stockpiles. The U.S. sends these arms to NATO, and then NATO passes them on to the Ukraine, supposedly covering all costs. And my question for you, Doctor, is where does NATO get its money? I mean, they make it sound like NATO just somehow has money. NATO gets its money from the member nations, but most of it is paid by us. Despite the ongoing conflict with Russia, it's $66.9 billion since 2002 alone, they claim. Trump has voiced concerns about U.S. involvement, saying this is not our war. But Russian attacks on the Ukraine, they say, persist. But why are we even involved? Now we claim we're going to go against Russia. We're going to have a big problem. He says, I'm not pleased with Putin and all this kind of stuff. And we're playing games when we say that NATO is going to pay for this or some of these other countries are going to pay for this. And we're lying, just kind of like how Mexico is going to build the wall. Mexico never paid for any wall. And we're going to end up paying for this, even though two-stepping it through NATO just means there's more men in the middle. More men in the middle means people pulling off funds and hey, they got to have their piece of the pie. So let's just say we get $1 million. I know this is simplistic, but you get $1 million. We need at least $200,000 to cover the NATO distribution and costs for delivery and fees and right. Got to have NATO. See, why are we doing all this? It's a scam. It's a lie. And the problem is, I just don't trust Donald now. Whatever comes out of his mouth now. Hey, there's no Epstein files. I mean, there really is Epstein files, but the Democrats tampered with them. You'll never get to the truth of this guy. And you say, Sam, how dare you go after Trump that much? No, it's the truth. I don't know what they're saying, and I can't trust anything they say anymore at all. Scott, am I too critical? Am I too crazy? I can't trust anything they say or do at all. None. Can't trust them. Don't know, don't believe. Whatever they say, I think is a lie now.
Well, it's a big shell game, and you're right. There's obfuscation at every turn. And one of the things that was just on the news, it's current events, current to this moment about the the tank battles, the heavy tank battles are going on in Syria. Israel and the Druze militias, where do militias get heavy armor, for crying out loud? There's other state actors. Russia's there in that sandpile. We're there in that sandpile. I mean, it's just a hodgepodge. You know, this civil war in Syria that went on for so many years, that we picked sides on, that we created ISIS over, that Russia and the Kurds defeated ISIS and saved our butts on that one. This whole thing is just a morass, and wherever you look, there's another kicking sand in somebody else's eyes and causing a problem. If our armor bumps into somebody else's armor over in that sand pile, what's that going to be? Every time you turn around, it's another story about the dog being wagged by the tail. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre to me. And when the Syrian thing finally sorts out, I think we're going to see it's a bigger issue that Israel has been in from the very, very beginning, and has been pulling our strings on that kind of stuff. And Trump in his first administration and the launch of the Tomahawk missiles, I think we're going to find that this is another big puzzle piece, and they're moving those moving parts are always moving against what we really ought to have. Your prediction of Trump being the war president, I think it's moving those pieces pretty much in that direction. I think it's a mess. The whole thing is. So, I don't know, Sam. I mean, like I say, I've admitted being jaded before, and I guess nothing's changed.
Well, and the sad part is, I mean, I know I sound so cynical and so negative, ladies and gentlemen. I understand that. But at the same time, hey, I thought Trump said it's not our war. Well, if it's not our war, then what are you sending a bunch of weapons to the Ukraine for? That's what Joe Biden did. So how are you different than Joe? You were very critical of Joe, saying, hey, we need to get out of these wars. I mean, you were the guy that said there was a ceasefire literally a month ago. Didn't several weeks ago, a month ago, he was like, hey, we got a ceasefire?
It's quickly
And now we're
moving.
arguing ceasefires? So do you have a ceasefire or not? Well, the answer is no. Well, then why did you say you had one? Well, they had one and they broke it. Okay, well, you didn't have one. I said the very second you claimed you had one that it was a non-starter because they've been fighting for thousands of years, and you won't get a ceasefire out of these people. Okay, and I don't care if it's Israel, Iran, or Israel, Hamas, or Israel, Gaza Strip, or whoever you want to claim. I don't care if it's Russia, Ukraine. I don't care if it's. Why are we even in the middle of all this? Why do we have to have, hey, a United States backed this and a Trump backed that? And okay, we don't need all that stuff, man. We just need to stop. We just need to get out of it. We're $37 trillion in debt and rising quickly. If we add these tariffs to the taxes Americans have, I'm telling you, August 1st, everything's going to go up. We're gonna literally melt down if we're not very careful. And all we're spending time on is the international. What about our domestic problems? What about, okay, I just don't understand what we're even doing at this point. I know they say, hey, man, Sam, you're a simpleton. Donald Trump's playing like 6D chess, buddy. You just don't get it. Okay, well, when am I going to see it? Because at some point, a simpleton's got to be able to see it. At some point, you can see a checkmate. Or at some point, you can see that the other guy's in trouble, even if you're not very smart on chess. You might not understand the 40 moves ahead, but you can at least see where the board's at right now, right? And where I see the board's at right now is, man, we are making trouble everywhere we go, domestically and internationally. Dr. Bradley, what do you say to that? That's the way I really see it.
Well, here's the deal, and I've said this for decades, literally, and I repeat it often as I can. The big issue with so many presidents is that they get in their big troubles during their second administration. Trump's in his second administration, although there was a pause, and it's international. They get this military adventurism going, and they get too big for their britches, and they become an international warmonger. And it would have been so easy for Trump to say, okay, these Biden wars are failures. We're not going to pursue that. He would have had a big win. But no, he's doubling down. He's playing these Biden war failures. They're quickly becoming Trump war failures. And you say, oh, well, he negotiated this and that and the other for ceasefires and so on. There is no ceasefire. There's a pause while they reload. I mean, this kind of stuff is absolutely absurd, what's happening. And we're in Trump's second administration, and all of the international stuff that's a miss right now is really a big challenge for our nation, because there's some very high stakes. If, in fact, all of these things play out at the same time, with the same violent outcome, it could escalate pretty quickly. And you talk about the domestic challenges. Well, our domestic challenges are, let's make the country secure. Let's make sure our budgets are balanced, and let's take care of business.
We're not even interested in that at all.
Doesn't seem so. It doesn't seem so.
I mean, what's Congress even doing right now? And the answer is, you don't know what your congressman or your senator is doing. And we even have no idea week to week what they've accomplished. I mean, how many bills have they even passed? Not counting the big, beautiful bill and not counting two spending into oblivions. What have they really passed that would be beneficial for the American people? The murdering of children. They passed not funding Planned Parenthood for a year. Good for them, but it only lasts for a year. What about the shipping murder medications across state lines? That's just been going on unabated on Trump's watch for 7 months now.
Yeah, and
even in states that say it's illegal, right?
Right. I mean, well, the U.S. mail can't be interdicted, and so they're getting it into wherever they want.
Just shut it down. Just say you're not doing that, or we're throwing you in jail. Anybody who sends a murder medication to a state that it's illegal in, we're going to support the states in this, and if you do it, you're going to prison. But see, we're not doing that.
No, we're not.
Trump's too busy speaking with FBI Director Dan Bongino about, hey, don't revolt over Epstein. And then, we're like, we got to send money, send Patriot missiles to the Ukraine. Why are we doing that? Trump has declared that NATO is going to pay for it and all this stuff. Okay, now the Alcatraz thing's a big old debacle. Alligator Alcatraz. Democrats report disturbing and unsanitary conditions, while Republicans say the detention facility is great, safe to run. Who do you believe? Then you got the autopen bombshell. NY Times confirms that Biden did not sign off on all pardons, including Fauci. He signed off on the standard that he wanted to be used, and then they took those standards and they went ahead with them. But when does that ever fly? When can you just say, I don't have to sign off on it, I'll just kind of tell you the general guidelines and what I want obeyed, and then you go ahead and take care of it, okay? But again, we know that now, right? The New York Times reported it, we know it, okay? Well, here's the deal. Either the New York Times is lying or they're telling the truth. If they're lying, then we need to prosecute them for false reporting. If they're telling the truth, then why don't we go ahead and have a heads roll? Because nothing's going to be done. They're not going to put anybody in jail. Maybe a couple of low-level people at best, but that's it. Nothing's going to happen. And I'm telling you right now, it's about time to start the elections, isn't it, Doctor?
Well, it is. I think the Trump administration has tied a huge Gordian knot that could be severed. Think about Alexander the Great and all that. Go back and read your history. But they've got a Gordian knot they've got to start extricating themselves from.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Bradley. FreedomsRisingSun.com. I'm Sam Bushman, syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Networks, lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.